Very good morning to all of you that may watch this. This is a very quick and short response to Afriforum's incredibly aggressive, naive, may I say, ignorant and arrogant uh, presentation at this massive scam, which is referred to as the submissions in terms of land appropriation without compensation. But more so, I want to focus on one of the key elements of what Afriforum is saying. And there's a saying that if your argument has got legs of clay, your argument cannot stand. So to continue, the argument that Afriforum puts forward is that white people indeed are in possession of and acquired land through, by and large, legal means. He claims that the biggest fallacy, the biggest scientific slash historical fallacy is that land was never stolen, so to speak, from black people, from the indigenous people. And yes, there was the 1913 Land Act and of course the 1915 Group Areas Act. That wasn't, and he says, well, that needs to be dealt with in terms of that category. But the most important thing is one needs to understand is where did they get the land from? Let's just deal with the Western Cape. I want to deal with the Western Cape more than any other place, more than any other place in South Africa. I'm just going to do something quickly here. Okay, here we go. So I want to deal with this in terms of South Africa, in terms of the Western Cape. Now, I want to read something to you from a book referred to as Cape Town, Making of the City. It was written by Nigel Warden, Elizabeth van Heiningen, and Vivian Bickford Smith. And this book was very interesting, and I'm busy studying the translated diaries of Jan van Riebeeck. And this is a book where they extracted certain elements of what Jan van Riebeeck himself wrote. Now, this, I'm quoting what they say. In 1654 to 1656, tensions rose further. The Khoikhoi, who were predominantly one of the biggest, the single biggest Khoikhoi clan, which is domiciled in the Saldanha area, however, who moved their herds over great distances, all the way to Cape Town, all the way up to the Orange River. And this is what they said. They refused to accept Dutch pretensions of controlling the land permanently, and showed their contempt by even grazing the cattle across the garden and the shoreline, mixing them with the company's own herds. I want to read that back, just extract from that. The Dutch pretensions of controlling the land permanently. I go further. The Khoikhoi, who was the chief clan, Khoikhoi clan, predominantly from the Hottentots Holland, where we know from areas like the Strand, Gordons Bay, all the way down to the Cape Peninsula. And they had a junior or sub-clan called Khoikhoi, of which Atsumayo and Doman were members of. And this is what they told the Dutch. This is according to Jan van Riebeeck. They told me firmly that during their summer migration of 1655, that we, referring to Jan van Riebeeck, were living upon their land, and they perceived that they were rapidly building more and more, as if we intended never to leave. And for that reason, they would not trade with us for any more cattle. And that was that same night. Now, again, here another group comes and said, but hold on, we thought you here just temporarily. Now we see you building. And you know what? This is not on, because there was never an agreement. Okay, now listen to this. And it happened that 50 of these natives wanted to put up their huts close to the banks of the moat of our fortress. And when told in a friendly manner by our men to go a little further away, they declared, and this was they referring to the Khoikhoi, they declared boldly that this was their land and not ours. Now, this is very instructive and very interesting, because what Ernst Roots and all of these Afriforum people like to believe is that land was negotiated by treaty, etc., etc., etc. That's rubbish. The fact of the matter, we must not allow, and we must fiercely challenge this. The fact of land acquisition in South Africa by white people was by excessive, inhuman, murderous, genocidal force. There is a book which very clearly states that between 1652 and the 1800s, more than 200,000, anywhere between 180 and 200,000 people were murdered systematically in the Western Cape, in the Cape Peninsula, systematically murdered by successive white administrations that were there occupying the land and administrating the land illegally and unlawfully. Now, to Ernst Roots, to remind you of a legal fact, the tenet of law, which says this: nothing legal can flow from an illegal transaction, irrespective of time or space. The acquisition of land by white people was illegal. Therefore, today, whether it's 1,000 years or 1 year later, is illegal. Therefore, no legal transaction can flow from that, which includes what Nelson Mandela and his ANC did in terms of the so-called scam constitution of South Africa. It is illegal. That constitution is illegal. Therefore, Section 25 of that constitution is itself illegal. And I concur with Black Land First, who are saying that there is no intention to hand the land back. This is nothing more than a diversionary measure. This is nothing more than a tap dance to the side and to the other side, to the top, to the bottom, as there's no intention to return the land to its rightful owners. That will just be one scam after the other. However, we need, my focus of this is to ensure that from a historical point of view, we are absolutely clear in our mind. I would draw your attention again, and you're more than welcome to go and research it. The 100-year war between whites and Xhosa people. Why was there a 100-year war fought? Because what were Xhosa people doing? Were Xhosa people even invading the acquired, forcefully might I say, the stolen property of whites in the so-called Cape Colony? No, there was a massive movement by voortrekkers, by whites, into the lands of the Xhosa, and hence there was a 100-year war, 9 frontier wars, which fought together with Xhosa and Khoi clans, in particularly Stuurman. Stuurman, who himself said that he wishes to take the land back from the Boers, who through murder and other means dispossessed the indigenous Khoi and San of their land. And he called in particular, Stuurman called for revenge against the Afrikaners who stole their land. So now I'm going to ask the question: what history book, what piece of literature is these racist, treasonous people by the name of Afriforum referring to? Where is their reference material? We don't want doctored reports, doctored treaties signed by Udingani, Kuanung Dingani, that kind of childish rubbish. They have no right to be in South Africa, and their arrogance in terms of denialism, number one, in countries in Europe. Holocaust denialists are locked up for a substantial period of time. These people are denying that there was a genocide of massive proportions in South Africa, but more so, in tandem with the genocide against the indigenous peoples, there was also the massive dispossession of land. 2, the misuse, abuse, and theft of the resources of all of the land flowing from this dispossession for a period of 300 years. Therefore, people of color must demand restitution, must demand reparations paid for the murder, the oppression, the suppression, the arrested development, the theft, and the misuse and abuse and theft of our resources for more than 300 years.